Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Just Business Talk. Today's guest knows how to turn websites into serious cash. Joe Burrell, founder of Just Website Brokerage, has helped digital entrepreneurs buy and sell over 6 million worth of online businesses. He's also been named Flipper's top broker twice. Joe, welcome to the podcast. Let's dive right in. What makes a website truly valuable?
Thank you for having me. First of all, Tahir, I appreciate the time. So, what makes a website truly valuable is, in my opinion, a combination of diversification, both in traffic and revenue, and a solid history. So, obviously, the older the business is, or the website is, the more history you have to refer back to and prove. And also, the word solid is more like um, either stable or slowly increasing revenue.
Okay, great. Yeah, so your work is very much different to what I do. We buy and sell brick and mortar businesses, and you sell website businesses. So
Correct. Yes.
that's totally different what we do and you do.
There might be
Right.
quite a few overlaps. You'd be interested. Like there's information memorandums. We still do that.
Right.
Preparing the P&L and those sorts of things.
Okay.
Like it's not as regulated, I think, as
Hmm.
traditional business sales, but
Yeah.
ultimately the processes are pretty similar. Transferring the business as well is
Yeah, but
obviously.
I think more or less the transfer, so the process of selling an online or a brick and mortar business is the same, unless where you need to negotiate the price or you need to see the physical location. That's where you need a physical touch, more into brick or mortar transaction rather than an online e-commerce transaction. That entirely the entire process can be done online.
That is very true. In fact, most of the deals
Yeah,
that I do are entirely online.
yeah.
They don't have
So did
any
you ever
with
come
video
across a
calls.
deal
Yeah.
where did you did you ever came across a deal where you had to meet in person, buyer and seller, and you and negotiating or anything?
Had to? No, never. But it has
Yeah.
happened. I've done quite a few deals in Australia. Um,
Uh-huh.
so quite a lot of my client base is from there because that's where I'm not based there, but I'm from there. I'm actually based in Sweden at the moment. So,
Right.
but
So you're
yeah,
based in Sweden.
hmm,
All
again,
right. Okay. Yeah, but you live in Australia.
I used to live in Australia. I grew up there, but I actually live in Sweden now, based in Sweden.
Okay. Right. Okay. So tell me about that deal where you had to meet buyer and seller. Why? What was the reason, and how did it go?
It was just a lucky set of circumstances.
Yeah.
They were within the same community that I learned in
Yeah.
and from,
Mhm.
which and that's just sort of yeah, it was just lucky that they were in the same location, really.
Mm.
No
Okay.
other reason, honestly.
No other reason. Okay. Not specifically that the buyer said, I want to meet the seller. That's why.
It does happen quite a lot more when you
Mhm.
start getting up into the seven-figure deals.
Uh-huh.
A plane ride to Europe or wherever makes more
Yeah.
sense when there's a lot more dollars on the table. But other than that, no, it doesn't happen very often.
Right. Joe, let's get to know you a little bit more for our listeners today. You have been in online business space for over a decade. So, what first got you into buying and selling websites?
I've got an interesting story. It started actually back when I was in my very early 20s. My older brother bought me a board game called Cashflow. It
Okay.
taught me the principles of investing, and I had always been fairly good at saving. So I'd recently got a job and I was able to save quite a bit of money. Well, for me, anyway, as an early 20-year-old, it was 20K. And
Yeah.
I just wanted to find a way to basically invest this money using the principles that I'd learned.
All right.
I came across my mentors,
Mhm.
Matt and Liz Rad, who run ebusinessinstitute.com.
Yeah.
I basically just signed up for their course and they taught me what I basically it kickstarted my career into the online world.
Yeah.
Um, I ran and operated multiple portfolios, buying and selling
Mhm.
websites for myself.
Right.
That was ongoing for 6, 7 years. And then I pivoted to my brokerage now in 2018, 2019.
Right. Okay. Great. Great. So is it only you, or you have a team? How do you operate?
I have a team. My life partner and business partner, Natalie, she helps me with the day to day. I also have a few staff that also help me, keep on top
Okay.
of stuff, the basic tasks, helping me prepare the businesses for sale and answering messages and responding to buyers, etc.
Okay. So you exclusively work on Flipper, or you work with other sites as well?
No, I work with other sites as well. We do get most of our sales on Flipper, just simply because they have the most amount of buyers. Also, we're most familiar with their platform, which I think helps. um, um, but no, we also list on acquire.com, Investors Club, um, and a couple of others as well, although not very
There's
often.
another one, Empire Flipper. Is it? It's also a brokerage platform.
That is, they are a brokerage. So those ones that I mentioned just now, Flipper, Acquire, Investors Club, they're actually not brokerages. Um, Empire Flip is a brokerage, so
Right.
they don't currently allow other brokers on there currently. I talked to them, I'm familiar with them, and I bought businesses off their platform before in the past when I was acquiring business for myself. But currently, they don't have anything like that. They nearly did a few years back, but they ended up canning that idea.
Right. Okay. I think I assume they make more money in brokerage than what they make money in a platform, right?
Well, they have just a very clear set of an order in which they do things. And when
Hmm.
you introduce other brokers, I have my own process that differs probably a little bit from what theirs is. And I think that was the main hurdle that they ran
But
into.
and also, I think if you're a platform, you need more. I mean, there's more leakage. I know someone, my friend of mine, he bought a website about 6 months back, e-commerce, and he bought it from Flipper. And he said after first conversation, the rest he directly dealt with the seller, and then they agreed to transact outside of Flipper, where they use escrow.com
Oh
to
wow.
secure the funding, but they didn't. So I assume from his story, there must be many leakages in their model.
Yeah, don't reveal his name because that's against their terms and conditions. If they met on Flipper, they should have closed on Flipper. But
No, no,
ultimately,
I will not tell him
obviously
the
that
name.
happens, and I think Flipper do their best to try and minimize that. We have a strong relationship with Flipper and honor our agreements. So anyone that we meet on Flipper, we close on Flipper. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Great. So you're one of their top brokers, yeah?
Correct. Yeah. And so just to clear something up, that's common misconception. I don't actually work for Flipper. I work with them. So I'm
Yeah, yeah.
just authorized broker on their platform. Flipper do now have their own brokerage service that is different from what I do.
Yeah. So how's your like? Do you recommend someone who's listening this to sell or become an e-commerce? How the industry is? Is it a rewarding career? Does it give you a flexibility to work from anywhere, everywhere? Travel. All this kind of stuff. Do you earn good money doing this? What you do? So tell us about a little bit about your day-to-day job and what it brings in. Is it rewarding or not?
So it's a mixed bag. You can make a lot of money doing this. I talk to many buyers who do, but you can also make mistakes, which is why going through a broker and things like that, where you've actually got that previous experience to build off, it gives you the experience that maybe that person doesn't have otherwise. I was able to move to Sweden because of my business. We both, my partner and I moved here when in 2017, and it was because of my business that I was able to do that. So yes, you can do it from anywhere, and um, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And do you earn enough? Is it rewarding enough?
Yes, for us it is. Yeah, it now supports both of us. It supports our whole family.
Right. And how you charge your fee to the buyer or you charge the seller?
So just last year, we launched a service that targets the buyer, or basically has the buyer be our client. So if you're out there looking for a business, we have a service that's helps you basically find businesses. For that service, it's a retainer monthly fee plus a small commission should we find a deal for you that matches the criteria you're
That's
looking
for your
for.
company, or that's the flipper they launched
Uh,
the service, or you launched the service specifically for yourself?
my service, just
Okay,
website
that's
brokerage
service. All
service.
right. Okay.
And obviously on the sell side, which is the more traditional broker model, I charge on the back end a higher percentage and a small upfront fee. That's how the model works.
Right. So you charge the seller, not the buyer.
Seller on the sell side, buyer on the buy side.
Okay. All right. So, for example, if you're representing a seller, so you'll get paid from the seller, not from the buyer.
Yes. So if the seller is my client, the seller pays me. If the
Seller
buyer is
pays.
my client, the buyer pays me.
And yeah, the buyer can be direct buyer, or buyer could be the third party. So yeah, could be.
Uh, yeah, no, it's usually a direct party. I work with usually an individual person who represents a company or a
Okay.
fund or
And the kind of clients who are interested in buying our e-commerce business, what is their main motivation and what's their background? Why do they want to buy online business? Are they professional investors or someone who knows e-commerce, or they're new people who are just getting into the? So tell us a little bit about the persona of your buyers.
Yeah, in most cases, it is for cash flow. Um,
Yeah,
Websites and website businesses in
like
general,
passive income thing.
it's not passive. I wouldn't say passive. It's cash flow. So
Right.
there usually is some hours involved in running most of the businesses. You do come across a few that are completely hands off and passive, and they have their own team and it's completely self sustaining, but they're not very common. There's usually something that you need to do. I would say on average, the businesses that we represent require about maybe 5 to 10 hours of work per week. Um, like I said, there are exceptions, but that's most of them. They're looking for that cash flow. It's an investor, ROI kind of model.
Okay.
That
Right.
most investors are into.
And what's the main motivation for the sellers? Why they want to sell their businesses?
That's a very mixed bag, mate. Yeah, there's loads of reasons. I just talked to a seller just today who is in college, and he's just about to enter his finals next month, and
Hmm.
he has built this business that's outgrown his ability to take care of it. It's too successful, basically. And he's like,
Yeah.
I need it sold like yesterday because I need
Right.
to focus on my
Okay.
college
What kind of business
work.
is it?
That one is an e-commerce business. I won't reveal the domain name because we haven't listed it yet. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's in the clothing niche.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
and yeah, he's just fulfilling these orders in his college dorm room.
Yeah.
But that's one reason. It can also just be as simple as they just
So what are the
sell their
majority of
business.
businesses comes to you for sale? Are they e-commerce or SaaS products? Or
No, it's we list pretty much everything. If it's an online business, we sell it. YouTube
it
channels,
could be a SaaS business, it could be e-commerce, it could be a professional coaching, anything to do with the
correct.
e-commerce. Yeah.
Yep. If it's a business that's run exclusively and almost entirely online, I represent them.
Okay, to tell us a little bit about the industry in whole. Yes, I know after COVID there was a big boom of e-commerce, and a lot of e-commerce businesses started by different people. Do you think the trend and it would continue? There would be enough e-commerce industry. So tell us a little bit about the industry and whole and the trends in e-commerce industry.
So I would say it's across the board. Sales, the number of sales have increased. Um,
Mhm.
the um, There has been a significant demand for Shopify stores in particular, um, and
Is
there
there
have
any
been
reason why there's
within
a
within
demand?
the industry there has been a large amount of upheaval with Google updates. Uh,
Mhm.
a lot of small niche content sites have recently suffered, to say the least. Whereas e-commerce stores that rely on their own ecosystem through social media and through paid ads and things like this, and their own marketing dollars, are the ones that have continued to prosper through all of those updates.
Yeah.
So they are becoming more um, sought after, just simply for that reason. They're sort of like, Google proof, so to speak. Because a lot of people have been burned by Google lately in the online world.
Hmm. What makes a website truly valuable? Is it traffic, revenue, brand, or something else?
Um, what makes it truly valuable? I think it's um, uh, sorry, one second. Um, uh, yeah, so it's kind of like what I said at the top of the call. We like to see businesses that have diversification and a solid history. So, ones that are aged, ones that have um, diverse revenue streams and diverse traffic streams. The reason for that is because if one of them disappears, you have others to fall back on and to
Hmm.
leverage up or down.
Yeah.
Many buyers also have multiple strengths. So when they're looking for a business to buy, they're looking for businesses that have a certain thing. And the more diversified you are, the more likely it is that it has that thing that a buyer is looking for.
Yeah.
Whether that's a YouTube channel or a Facebook page or Google Ads or advertising, affiliate, etc. There's loads of things that buyers want and are specialized in that they're looking for.
Hmm. Yeah. So how important is the staff element in online businesses? And brick and mortar is one of the deal breaker, I would say, the staff. And how about the e-commerce businesses?
So staff, because it's remote, it's usually pretty easy to find somebody to do the job that you want them to do. Um, so for that reason, it's not that much of a challenge, like it probably would be with brick and mortar business, where you have local staff that come to the office every day or come to the shop every day. You know, it's not as dependent on them as that.
Hmm.
Um, that said, when you're talking about something that's like a SaaS, that's been built by a developer or an agency that has got a team of people who deliver a specific service,
Hmm.
then it becomes more important. But if you're just talking about just a general e-com store or basic content site, um, staff is normally not that big an issue.
All right. So in brick and mortar businesses, the buyer gets the physical key of the business. So what does a buyer gets in an online business? So what's the ownership or IP transfer you do
That's a
when
great
selling a
question.
business? Yeah.
It's something I don't usually think about, but you're right. Brick and mortar business, you get a key.
Yeah.
There's obviously no key with a website. Well,
Yeah.
the main thing that you get is the domain name. So pretty much everything, the most valuable asset with a website, if we're talking about websites specifically, it's the domain name. Um, if it doesn't have a domain name, so say it's a YouTube channel, then we're talking about logins to whatever it is that you've got. So YouTube channel, the logins to the YouTube, getting access to the email and making sure you have full control over that. Um, so that's basically it, really, in a nutshell. Like, your password, your logins are your key, so to
So
speak.
basically the login of Shopify, WordPress, YouTube, Meta, TikTok, whatever.
Yeah, put
Whatever the
simply,
assets are,
that's
yeah.
yeah. So it's the logins that basically are the
And
key.
how do you do the due diligence on that business? So how these businesses are mainly structured? They are like a Delaware company, or then who owns these assets? Like, is it on a personal name, or the company own these assets? So tell me a little bit about the more like a ownership structure or a due diligence checklist. So if someone buying an online business, what are the things
Yeah.
need
Okay.
to be
So
checked, and how the process works?
the biggest part for due diligence with online businesses actually is more around the traffic and the revenue,
Mhm.
rather than the who owns of the business. If they don't own the business, they won't be able to give it to you. It's as
Yeah.
simple as that. You can't give logins to something you don't own. So I don't know what it's like in the traditional business model, but um, it sounds like that's more important part of your due diligence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
because the traditional business, when someone buying a business, they buy a company. So when they buy a company, the assets and the liability comes with the company. So,
yeah,
for example, if there are unpaid bill, taxes, or anything which are not disclosed. So
Hmm.
that becomes the responsibility of the buyer later on because he's buying the company.
Okay, understood. Okay, so there is a clear distinction here. There are two types of online business sales. The most common one that we deal with are asset sales. So
Okay.
you're actually usually not selling the company with it. Okay, so
Okay.
that's probably the biggest difference. It does happen, and I've done a few deals where the company and the LLC or whatever it is included in the sale.
Mhm.
Um, because of various reasons. In most cases, like I deal with a lot of people who build multiple businesses. They have like 10 websites that they're operating at a time. One of my clients has got like over 50. And they're building these things side by side. And they have one big company that manages all of them. So they don't sell the whole company, they sell the assets within the company.
Mm.
So most of the businesses that we list are sold under an asset sale.
Right. Okay. Cool.
That's probably why it's not as important in most cases. When we're starting to talk about the bigger deals, where high six figures and seven figure deals, we're probably looking to include then the company details, the company along with the deal, and then of course that's mostly because you're going to need to probably get funding, get a loan, and those sorts of things. And for that, you need to have tax documentation, and it needs to be a lot more official, which is probably what you do with most of the deals that you do. So that
Yeah.
process would be
So
similar.
how easy is it to verify the numbers of the business in a with like accounting, bookkeeping? So how do you check that?
Yeah, it's challenging. So in most cases, if we're talking about a small asset, 100K or less, most of the time you're looking at screenshots, dashboards, doing a video walkthrough of their account to make sure that the revenue is what they're saying it is, and that their expenses are what they're saying it is. That's usually how it's done. That's how we do it in most cases. However, if we're talking about a bigger deal, then yeah, we start looking at the tax documentation, and we start involving accountants and using accounting software to prove revenue. Um, but yeah, there's sort of like a bit of gray area there, at the low six-figure range, where they're not quite sure which one they want to do. So it can be a bit challenging what sort of business
Yeah.
you're looking at.
Yeah.
It ultimately comes down to whether or not the company is going to be included in the deal.
Okay. So you've closed over 6 million in deals. So what's the most interesting or unexpected sales you've ever worked on?
Yeah. So I wanted to bring up one that was both interesting in niche and also in the price and the multiple and what we got it. I don't know if share screen is possible, but I can. Is it share screen possible? I should have asked at the front. Can I? Screen. Am I allowed to do that, mate?
Hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
this was from quite a while ago. Not sure if you. Yes, can you see?
Yeah. I can see that. Yeah.
Okay, so the domain name was codenerd.com,
Mhm.
which is about cheese. um,
Oh.
it sold for 16,900 and was so this profit multiple that you're looking at here is the yearly multiple, so how much it makes per year. So this business was making, it doesn't have the yearly amount, so 210 multiplied by 12. And that is the multiple of that. Most businesses these days sell for between 2 and 3, maybe 4x at the highest end. So we got an exceptional result for our client with this one, and um, uh,
Is there any
that was
particular
highly
reason
highly.
why it sold for this price?
It was a good business. It had a lot of things going for it. It was diversified, as you see, 3 diversified revenue sources, what I mentioned earlier. Um, I don't remember much more. And also, it was on an uptrend, as you can see, the most recent months there. So this was a while ago, and it looks like 2020. So it was one of our first sort of highlighted successes as a brokerage, and we used it in our marketing material for a number of reasons, as you can see. It was decently aged, it had lots of history, it was growing, had a good profit margin, and so on. So, and you can see the amount of interest it got. That was 13,000 views and 361 watches. So it got a lot of interest. And so yeah, anyway, that's one interesting deal that we did a while ago. We constantly get new ones that that always pique my curiosity, like the one I mentioned again earlier with the college guy who's looking to sell quickly
Yeah,
because he can't manage the business. Um,
yeah.
yeah.
What are some of the red flags buyers should watch out for before purchasing an online business?
Okay, so there are a lot of red flags. And like I said, if you've never bought an online business, I would strongly recommend going with a broker. Um, but the biggest mistake that people make is just not getting proof of revenue and expenses. Um, if and that's some people, they will get a screenshot of something and say, "Oh yeah, that makes sense," and that's all they do. Um, you have to go a little bit deeper, have a conversation, get on a call with the buyer, with the seller, and make sure that they are a real person. They're happy to talk to you and they're happy to share their screen and show you their dashboards.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Right. AI is shaking up the industries everywhere. How is it changing the world of buying, selling online businesses?
Um, so on the surface, not all that much, at least not with my business per se as a brokerage. But inside people's businesses, it's shaking it up a lot. Those content changes, Google update changes I mentioned, are heavily revolved around AI. And there was one business that I listed fairly recently that was entirely run by AI agents.
Right.
That sort of thing is new. That never used to happen. It never could happen.
Yeah.
So
It's
the
just
fact that you can,
AI is disrupting how the business is operating.
yeah, I mean, it's making it easier. So I mean, for me, I've started using AI in my business to help me produce more and have more touch points across my business. Um, Automate certain systems, and we've even put together some scripts. We've had AI help us code some scripts to scrape the internet for ideal acquisitions for our buy side clients. Those sorts of things would not have been possible before. I wouldn't have even tried. So they're very positive, but it does feel like a double edged sword because you have to be super careful about how you use it. If you're using it in a way that I think is lazy, you're just doing easy, do an article about this keyword, and that's it. You're not going to get results. It's just going to be more trash. Um, and Google is good at picking up that kind of thing, and so on. But if you can use it intelligently for automation, um, write something yourself that's original, and then have AI help you fill in the holes. That's where we see AI having a really good positive effect on businesses that we
Yeah.
list.
What is the biggest mistake seller make when they're trying to cash out from their business?
Um, Biggest mistake that they make in terms of what you mean when they.
In terms of operations or anything, yeah, in their business, what they should be aware of.
Okay, so
Uh,
a seller, they want to sell their business. What mistakes do they
yeah.
make? Um, so for me, probably the biggest mistake is wanting too much and not knowing how much your business is worth. Um,
Valuation.
Valuation, it's very common that the
Yeah, same here. In our industry, also the valuation is the biggest thing.
yes, so almost always the sellers want more than it's actually worth. And so when you list it yourself on marketplaces like Flipper and Acquire, they don't know, like they do. Flipper do try to do they have an automated thing that values the business after you filled in the information, but it's not usually very accurate. We see it get it wrong all the time. So it's important, I think, in that instance to at least get independent valuation. Aside from that, we're probably the next biggest mistake would be not preparing the information properly. So half-assing the information that they present to the buyers, and not being transparent enough. So making sure that the P&L is prepared, I mean, I've seen lots of businesses on for sale that
Yeah,
take
that was
quite a
my
few
next question. I was asked, if someone is looking to sell their online business, what steps should they take to maximize the value?
bucks. I mean, I think that would start fairly early on. Your the if you're looking to sell your business, the worst thing you can do is just list it straight away. Start thinking ahead, at least 3 to 6 months out. Um, Engage with some brokers and try and get an idea on what the business will be worth, and any advice that they have to help you optimize the growth of the business. Um, the Like I said, if the profit is going up and to the right, that is a massively strong confidence signal to the buyers that the business is succeeding and that they're more likely to want to buy it if that's the case. So the more you can prove and show that the profit is going up, that's a good thing. Even like, so if you can, and if you're sort of holding back, or there's some expenses that can be cut and things like this that are not necessary for running the business, start cutting them away early. So then that way the profitability the business looks healthier when it comes time to sell.
Great. So finally, Joe, where can our listeners connect with you and learn more about your Just website brokerage if they want to sell or
Yes.
buy online business?
So our website is justwebsitebrokerage.com. There, if you're a buyer, you're interested in buying, we have a free list you can join there, and you'll get asked for your buying criteria. Put in that information there, and you will only get emails that are tailored, and businesses that are tailored to your criteria that you input. And if you're interested in selling and you have a business, an online business that you're considering selling, there is also a page there to fill in a valuation form. So you fill that in, we'll give you an initial valuation on the business for free, and tell you what our process is.
Amazing, Joe. We're going to have our referral partnership as well. We don't sell online businesses, but definitely we're going to work together on this. So this is today. We had a very insightful discussion with Joe, just website brokerage. If anybody wants to buy or sell online business, please get in touch with Joe, and you can use our referral that you've been referred by Selling a Biz podcast. You're gonna get some special treatment. For this week, I'm signing off, and hopefully